What's up, Geeks and Gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today we are talking about Disney Star Wars. Because do you know who's at fault for Disney Star Wars not being good? It can't be Kathleen Kennedy's fault, can it? It can't be the executives' fault that are pushing the DEI agenda into everything, can it? It can't be the creatives' fault, the actors that are targeting the fans and calling them names. It can't be the people that have alienated the entire fan base. No, no, no. It can't be Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. No, no, no. It's the fans' fault. It's your fault. It's my fault. It's the fans' fault. It's the fans. Star Wars' biggest problem is the fans, according to Collider. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. It's the fans. And how's that ratio going for them? 105 likes, 458 comments, and it's a ratio, glorious ratio here in the comments section. Absolutely glorious, just getting roasted. They turned comments off for a short period of time, and then they turned it back on because they were getting roasted for that as well. It's glorious. It's absolutely hilarious. But that Park Place actually has a good breakdown of it. And we're going to read this. Canadian-owned publication Collider spews racist hate and blames white male Star Wars fans for Lucasfilm's crappy TV shows like The Acolyte. Bold strategy there. I guess we'll see how it works out. Collider, an online website by Canadian corporation Valnet that runs other left-wing entertainment websites such as MovieWeb, Screen Rant, and CBR, published an article blaming Star Wars fans for Lucasfilm creating crappy television shows such as The Acolyte. The article, titled Star Wars' Biggest Problem is the Fans, written by Cameron Barnett, dismisses legitimate criticisms of shows like The Acolyte. Barnett writes, Leslie Headland's groundbreaking series has been relentlessly review-bombed online, causing The Acolyte to possess a huge disparity between its positive critical reception and the abysmal audience score on aggregate websites like Rotten Tomatoes. Since the majority of these hate-filled criticisms are either overreactions to alleged continuity errors within the Star Wars universe or a backlash aimed at attacking the show's long overdue inclusivity, the bad actors spreading them are clearly spinning controversy out of nothing, and this manufactured outrage can be directly traced back to the demographics of the original trilogy. Woo! I told you, man, they hate George Lucas's Star Wars, okay? They despise George Lucas's Star Wars. They hate it. There is nothing wrong with pointing out that The Acolyte, Lucasfilm, and the Walt Disney Company are promoting inclusivity. In fact, it is just a right, given inclusivity is an evil ideology that prioritizes demonizing white men. What? The show also introduced a Force replacement called The Thread, claimed that a pair of lesbian space witches created two twins through the thread, and as multiple Jedi discover a Sith attack despite the Jedi believing the Sith to be extinct for over a millennia. From there, Barnett makes it abundantly clear that the demographics of the original trilogy are white men. Barnett pins the first film in the original trilogy, originally titled just Star Wars upon its 1977 release, was just shown to the public during the decade of classics like Steven Spielberg's Jaws and Rocky. This was a time when Hollywood relied almost exclusively on traditional tropes to tell stories exclusively through a Eurocentric white male lens. Barnett does not stop there. Despite taking place in a galaxy far, far away from the filmmaking conventions of Earth, Star Wars original trilogy features a mostly white cast, female characters with largely unrealized potential and no LGBTQ plus storylines depicted on screen. Like I said, the goal is to make Star Wars a social justice propaganda machine. That is it. It's not about honoring George Lucas's wonderful universe he created. It's not about honoring the characters, and it's not about respecting the fans. I have repeated this point more times than I can count, and I continue to get proven right by activists like this. If it was not clear by now, the entire piece is written purely based on Barnett's evil ideology. Obviously, Barnett wants to push disordered lifestyles and various woke ideologies and wants to use Star Wars as a vehicle to do it. He's upset that a significant portion of the Star Wars fan base rejects him, and he's now lashing out. To no surprise, Barnett follows the 3 laws of a social justice warrior as defined by Vox Day in the SJWs Always Lie, taking down the thought police. SJWs always lie, SJWs always double down, and SJWs always project. 1,000%. Barnett then doubles down while powerful female leaders like Mon Mothma and Carrie Fisher's iconic Princess Leia are outspoken forces for the good in the trilogy. The latter's relationship with the Force and her father is glossed over in favor of her brother. And Leia's infamous bikini scene at Jabba's place in Star Wars Return of the Jedi feels like fodder for a generation of male fantasies. Continuing on. He goes over to claim the narrative quality of Disney's sequel trilogy aside, the movie's progressive decision to hire Daisy Ridley as Rey and John Boyega as Finn marked important first for the franchise leads. Yet these casting decisions also resulted in constant online harassment for both actors in the aftermath of their performances, with many detractors trying to drag Star Wars back to a less inclusive past. Thank you for this article. Thank you so much for this article. You guys are out. You guys are absolutely out of your minds. And I absolutely love that they continue to do exactly what we say they are going to do. It's the same song and dance. Where were these articles for Mandalorian Season 1 and 2? Where were they for Clone Wars Season 7? Where were they? Nowhere to be found, because you couldn't build a victim narrative around it. If a show is shitty, a show is shitty. If a character is shitty, a character is shitty. It's that simple. This isn't complicated at all. These people, the person that wrote this article, not the article in that Park Place, but the person that wrote it for Collider, they view women and basically non-white dudes as social justice propaganda pieces. Their entire existence is based off judging people based on their identity. And how can I use this person's identity to further my point? That is it. That is how they view the world, which is an extremely effed up way to view the world. Daisy Ridley rejected this narrative during an appearance on Today earlier this year. She was asked, I just have to ask because there are some, I'd say, extreme Star Wars fans who have made this a conversation on the internet about how they don't want a female director, which seems bizarre because episodes of The Mandalorian were directed by females. Kathleen Kennedy has been overseeing all of this. What's your take? She responded, I think my take is things get blown out of proportion, and the interactions I've had with people have been nothing but wonderful and supportive. And honestly, the day we announced I was coming back at Celebration last year, you could not imagine the joy and goodwill that will in that room. She added, so I've only ever been embraced, and I think we're going to make a great film and people will love it. What a fantastic answer from Daisy Ridley. They tried to bait her. They tried to pull her in to call those fans racist and toxic and sexist, but she didn't bite. She didn't bite. Barnett continued to lie in pointing out how the now debunked Access Media claimed that actress Kelly Marie Tran quit Instagram due to Star Wars fans. He wrote Kelly Marie Tran's heart-warming performance as Rose Tico drew the ire of racist internet horde, causing Tran to quit Instagram in order to look out for her mental health. In an op-ed in the New York Times, Kelly Marie Tran explained why she left social media. The op-ed makes absolutely no mention of her decision had anything to do with Star Wars fans. In fact, the only mention of Star Wars is at the end of the op-ed where she declares, I am the first woman of color to have a leading role in a Star Wars movie. That's it. That thing was debunked a long time ago. But again, Kelly Marie Tran only exists to be a narrative for these weirdos. I can sit here and tell you that Kelly Marie Tran, through every interview I have seen, seems to be a sweetheart of a person. End of discussion. I don't know what her opinions on things are. I don't know what her politics are. I don't really care. But she was terrible in the role of Rose Tico, and that really wasn't even her fault. That was Rian Johnson's fault. The white male's fault. That's whose fault it was, Collider. But I don't see them taking that approach because Rian Johnson lines up with their narrative, because it's not about race or gender or sexual orientation unless a narrative can be built around it. Kelly Marie Tran seems like sweetheart in all of her interviews. No one that I know of targeted her, and if anyone did, they're a piece of shit, and you can't prove it because we've been waiting years to see the actual harassment from anyone with a legitimate following, and you can't show anything because SJWs always lie. Barnett would then make it abundantly clear the entire purpose of the article is to attack opponents of the LGBTQ lifestyle and ideologies. He wrote, not only did the final film in the sequel trilogy 2019's Rise of Skywalker greatly reduce Rose's screen time, but the brief lesbian kiss featured in the background at the very end of the movie felt disappointing for audience members who had waited so long for sincere queer storylines. He goes on to write, thankfully, the most recent installment of the Star Wars universe have built upon the franchise's contemporary legacy by including more representative storylines in an age of digital hate. The lesbian relationship between Val Sartha and Cinta, whoever, in Andor, I didn't watch Andor, I watched like the first few episodes, marks an important step forward for LGBTQ plus inclusion in Star Wars, as does the relationship between Osha and May's mothers in The Acolyte. To further hit home his point, Barnett concludes his article, the most vocal viewers of this franchise wield the power of the internet in order to push a bigoted agenda that originates from prejudices in an earlier time, while mainstream Star Wars content has grown to produce meaningful narratives while being bogged down by hate in the background. True fans understand that Star Wars universe is a sci-fi wonderland where anything can happen and anyone belongs, and the future looks bright for those who have already opened up their minds to the compassion that all audience members should have learned a long time ago. I was getting a little emotional there. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm developing a lisp, too. I'm so emotional right now. It's ironic that he spends the entire article condemning white males, revealing that they're calling this dude out. I think John Trent wrote this article. Shout out to John Trent. But yeah, I mean, every SJW is like, they are an actual racist because this is their entire existence. Their entire existence is to judge people based on the narrative they can build around their identity. What a deranged weirdo these people are. Let's see, but his true purpose, Star Wars plays on belong, but his true purpose is clearly not to have Star Wars be for anyone. It's only for anyone that enslaves themselves to these woke, hateful ideologies, as Barnett has. Furthermore, as Barnett himself notes, fans have no power over the content that Lucasfilm creates. The company has clearly enslaved itself to the woke ideologies that Barnett supports, given the shows that the company has produced. The real problem with Star Wars is the fact that it has hired degenerate, woke, and enslaved ideologues in an attempt to promulgate the ideology to unsuspecting viewers. Fortunately, many people are no longer unsuspecting and have completely turned out of Star Wars altogether, or at the very least turned out to watching the actual shows and now watch lampooning of what Star Wars has become. Welcome, if that's what you're here for. That's what we do here. And this is what Barnett really is mad about. He's lost the opportunity to brainwash people and degenerate them. Star Wars is no longer as powerful vehicle to inject woke messaging as it once was, and this is in large part due to more and more people saying no. 1,000%. What do you make of Barnett's racist attack on Star Wars fans? So that's where we are. The Collider article is a complete and total disaster. They're going to get roasted beyond belief for this one. The Acolyte is a piece of shit. It's an objectively terrible show. There is nothing redeeming about this show at all. The show is not bad because it has diversity. The show is bad because it's a bad show, but it was built off of an ideology. That was the core purpose of it, is to push social justice propaganda into it and tell a story from that perspective. And that has nothing to do with Star Wars. At the end of the day, you can tell whatever story you want to tell within the world of Star Wars. But when you're trying to bring real world stories from our world into a galaxy far, far away to push an agenda, it's almost always going to be bad. And the fans' voices matter now more than ever. And if they didn't matter, we wouldn't be seeing hit pieces like this. You guys have a great day. Thank you very much for checking out this video, and we will talk to you later.